So, I hear you're flying solo.
It's time once again for another episode of Flying Solo, a podcast dedicated to discussions encompassing all aspects of the Star Wars universe.
I got a bad feeling about this.
And now, broadcasting from a room far away from his loving wife, Nikki.
That's what I'm talking about.
You're about to enter a territory possibly more unforgiving than a Sarlacc pit. You're now flying solo with your host, Steve-O Solo.
Damn right you're flying solo with me, because I'm all by myself. Do you guys get the joke yet? Do you guys get it? I'll tell you the story behind it, all right? I'll tell you the story behind it. So I was applying for a job. I showed up for the interview, and he looked at my resume, and he was like, your name's just Steve-O? There's already a famous Steve-O. You can't just be called Steve-O. Who are your people? He asked me, like, who are your, like, who are you? I was like, I don't have people. I got really bummed out for a minute. And then he just looks at me, he's like, oh, Steve-O Solo, you're alone. You have no people. So that's how I got it. Solo. Steve-O Solo. That's how the name came about. I just wanted to share. Just wanted to share because I don't know if it's clear. I don't know if it makes sense, but that's just the way it goes. So, by myself, flying solo. Oh, man. I don't think that'll get old. 200 episodes into this podcast, I'm still going to make that stupid joke, and it's still going to be funny. I promise. I think it will be. But I'm so excited. Episode 2 of the Flying Solo podcast. It is such a good time to be a Star Wars fan. I said it last week. I feel like I'm going to be saying that for a really long time. The stories we're getting, the potential that we have open to this world, everything that's happening right now is just so good to be a fan of this product right now. It might be a little bit of recency bias, and we'll see how long this feeling holds and how long this lasts. But I honestly believe at this moment, this was my favorite season of television that I've ever watched. Season 2 of The Mandalorian was absolutely spectacular. And I've shared a little bit about my reservations and how nervous I was going into Season 2 with all the rumors, because unlike other pieces of content that we watch, I do kind of focus on theories and what people are saying and stuff like that, because it's Star Wars. It's my passion. It's my love. It's my all-time favorite piece of content ever. And so the rumors that came out about Season 2 made me really, really nervous. The Ahsoka rumors, the Boba Fett, especially the Boba Fett rumors. It made me nervous that they were going to go in a direction with this show, and thankfully we got official confirmation this morning from Favreau. But Boba Fett is such a massive character that he could easily overshadow everything that's happening. And I feel like it kind of has to an extent. I feel like Boba has, even the fact that like news came out right after the fact that Season 2 wasn't Boba Fett, people were still saying that it's like Season 2's Boba Fett because that's what they want. He could overshadow things. He's a really big character. He's really popular. Even though I thought he was highly overrated, like his love was highly overrated from what he did in the original trilogy, because he really didn't do much. And that's not like a knock on him as a character. He didn't have a plan. He didn't have a story that needed to be told then. He was just a bounty hunter doing his job, and he was the best one. And he had Mandalorian armor on, which made him look way cooler than everyone else. I mean, we didn't even get his name until the third movie, so I don't know. But I was nervous going into this season because I thought it was going to be something different. And how dare I feel that way? Favreau and Filoni are fantastic. I bow down to them every opportunity I get. The story worked. Everything about it was spectacular. And my biggest focus is always on the story and if it makes sense. Like, you could debate your little heads off about if something is good or if something is bad, but if something makes sense, there's things there to back it up and support, which is really what I like to focus on, is if things make sense. And Cobb Vanth, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, Boba, Luke fucking Skywalker. Like, you insert all these names into an 8-episode season, and talking like 30, 40-minute episodes, that sounds like it could be some trouble. It could be some problems there. But I feel like everything worked. Everything flowed within the context of the story. And one thing, I don't know how apparent it is to everyone, but it feels pretty obvious. The format of the show kind of made this possible because the format is simple. Didn't need something. He runs into somebody who could help him. They say, hey, if I'm going to help you, you need to help me. So then a deal gets made. They go finish his mission. Din gets what he needs at the end. And that was like a rinse and repeat for every episode. And it didn't feel repetitive. It worked. It flowed within the story. All because of this promise and this overarching story that Din had to get Grogu to the Jedi. That was the plan. That was the mission. And everything that he did was geared around that. Potentially under different circumstances with different people in charge, this could have been a shit show. It could have been a total story wreck. But, again, Favreau and Filoni are absolutely spectacular. They nailed it. They are so good with Star Wars and understanding the story and just everything about the lore and giving us that fan service. I hate using that word, but giving the fans what they want without it being just weird or out of left field. It all flowed within the story. It all worked perfectly well. And again, we'll see how long this lasts. But as of this moment, even days removed from the finale, this is my favorite season of television that I've ever seen. The Punisher, Hill House, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Ozark, Walking Dead. So many great seasons of TV that we've watched. And I really, really think it's my favorite one. It might be my favorite one to date. And I feel like that says a lot because of how much great stuff that we've watched. I've got like 5 different segments for today. I'm breaking down my view on things in portions, and I'm going to get the negative shit out of the way. I want this to be a positive, fun conversation. But at some point I'm going to have to harp on this stuff. So I want to get it just out first, talk about it, and just move on to the fun and exciting and geek-tastic stuff that we have going on. The biggest thing that I'm seeing, like even still today, with as great as The Mandalorian Season 2 was, the negativity is still, I don't think the negativity is ever going to go away. But I've said this before, I feel like it's bringing the fan base back together. The divide that was created because of the sequel trilogy is there. I don't think that's going to go away for a while. But I feel like things have kind of started mending. Fans have kind of started coming back together. And obviously negativity is still going to be around. It's going to be there. And look, Luke Skywalker is my all-time favorite character. In anything. Shows, movies, sport, like whatever. Like, this dude is my favorite character in the history of content. But can we please stop talking about the sequel trilogy being removed from canon? Can we please? I don't think one has anything to do with the other. I really don't. And this idea that, oh, this happened in this show, so now we could get rid of, like, look, I didn't like this. I didn't like a lot with the sequel trilogy either. The stuff with Luke is probably the biggest plot hole, story hole that you could ever create for yourself. I don't care what anyone says. Luke Skywalker abandoning his family and all of this stuff and trying to murder his nephew and going to a Jedi temple to hide and disconnect from none of that makes any sense story-wise. You can enjoy it, but story-wise it doesn't make sense. The last thing I'm going to call for is for it to be erased, because it is what it is. I've been watching Star Wars since I was a baby. I've probably invested more money than I should have ever into Star Wars. I am a paying customer, 30 plus years in the making as a fan, and I don't have the right to tell these content creators that your product sucked so much that it should be erased from the history books. I don't have that kind of power as a fan. I don't. And I personally think it's probably one of my biggest pet peeves. It really does drive me kind of crazy that that's the immediate reaction. I don't like it. It doesn't exist to me. Well, I'm sorry, but it does. Like, you don't have the control and the power to be like, oh, that's not canon to me. You could not like it. You could not enjoy it. But until Lucasfilm and the bosses come out and say, we're moving on from this, it's not our decision to make. And I will fight, like I've said this before, I will argue face to face with George Lucas about what happened with Luke in The Last Jedi and explain how that doesn't make sense and that's the last thing Luke Skywalker would ever do. But it doesn't mean it needs to be erased. Instead of looking at like the negative, look at the positive. Because the prequel trilogy, I was younger obviously then. I actually watched all of them in theaters, and it's the first Star Wars that I got to watch live in theaters. The response to those movies weren't good either. They were bad. And time heals everything. And the idea now, all these years later, the prequel trilogy, it's not my favorite. Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorites. But it's a really, really fantastic story when you strip it all down. And everything's going to be fine. And it's just really funny how I haven't seen one legitimate, credible source saying that Star Wars is, or Disney or the bosses are going to take canon away from the sequel trilogy. But like the way people talk about it is so definitive because of like online rumors. It boggles my mind. It's just crazy. Instead of being like, let's erase this, how about we find ways to make it better? What can the Mandalorian and other content within this time space, what can they do to make it better? What kind of things can they explain to maybe soften the blow a little bit? What can they do to fill gaps, those giant plot holes, those story issues that I have with it, that a lot of people have with it? What can we do to make it better instead of it doesn't exist? Look, if they go the MCU route and start adding alternate like timelines and time travel, and I'm going to be so disappointed. I'm going to be so disappointed if they've already kind of inserted it a little bit in Rebels, but if they start having like if 3 Luke Skywalkers show up to one place like in Spider-Man, which is probably what's going to happen, like you might lose me. Because I don't do time travel well. I don't do alternative timelines very well. That stuff is not Star Wars to me. And again, I know they've introduced it already. But I don't need a Star Wars verse of a bunch of extra different storylines and like, oh, this is the real Luke, not this one. That was just a figment of someone's imagination. Like, we're going to get too complicated. Star Wars is a simple story. It doesn't need to be super, super complicated in terms of the storyline, the timelines. If we start branching off onto different timelines, it's just going to be, I feel like it's just going to be a mess, and it's going to just create more timeline. It's going to create more issues than fixes, honestly. And some of the things that I keep seeing, which kind of bring up very easy points to just discuss, is why didn't Disney announce any new shows with any of the sequel trilogy characters? I think that's easy. It's not because they're going to remove it from canon. It's because it's a smart business decision. Why announce a Poe Dameron spin-off show when you could announce a Boba Fett show? The iron is really hot right now with The Mandalorian in that timeline. You strike when it's hot. You don't jump into a bunch of other content that you know created a divide with the fan base. You don't announce your Rey trilogy for like 5 to 10 years from now. If that's what you're going to do with episode 10, 11, and 12, you don't announce that for a while. You don't bring in characters like now, unless you're going to do a Finn spinoff. I think that would have been maybe the exception here. But you don't abandon what is absolutely on fire right now, which is The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano, Boba Fett, all of that stuff that is like just trending all over the internet right now. You don't abandon that stuff and focus on something that brought divide within the fan base. Tons of people like the sequel trilogy. I enjoy it very much from start to finish. It has lots of problems. It has tons of issues. The middle movie is bottom 3 on my list, I think. I think I put it bottom 3 of all Star Wars movies. But why wouldn't you take advantage of something right now? That's the answer, is that it's a smart business move. It wouldn't be smart to announce your solo spin-off show. You don't announce the lowest grossing movie ever is getting a spin-off. Grogu, Din, Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano, Bo-Katan, Boba Fett, all that stuff is so hot right now. Now you take advantage of it. That is what the decision made. Like, I obviously haven't heard that from anywhere. That's not a official thing or anything, but I'm just putting my business cap on and being like, I've seen that question a lot. I've seen that statement brought up a lot. And I think it's a no-brainer that you don't invite the controversy right now. There's no need to bring it in. The sequel trilogy is what it is. It's going to rest. You let that baby just sit in the corner for a minute. Nobody puts the baby in the corner. Well, yeah, Lando is getting a spinoff. That is true. But he was the best part of... Again, it'd be kind of like Finn getting his spinoff. A Lando spinoff with Donald Glover makes sense because he was the best part of that. But you let the sequel trilogy kind of just sit in the corner. Let people kind of forget about it like we did with the prequel trilogy. Maybe people will come around on it, start appreciating it a little more. Maybe won't have as many big issues with it as better content comes out and gaps get filled. I'm still 100% confident that Moff Gideon was working on something Palpatine related, Snoke related. I'm still on that train. I still believe that is going to be such an easy way to bridge that gap and make that story make sense. And they're going to do it better than the sequel trilogy did. They're going to do it better. I think that kind of answers that. And then the other thing was specifically what Luke said. You know, training. There's no training doesn't matter without, or power doesn't matter without training. And everyone immediately jumped down. Oh, he's throwing shade at Rey. He's throwing shade at Rey. He's talking shit. Look at Luke talking shit. Dark side Luke talking shit. Throwing out shade. Luke, again, I'm going to say this probably a lot. Luke is my favorite character of all time. But can we please stop acting like in the movies he went through some crazy training camp to become what we see in the Return of the Jedi? The dude did some stuff with a floating ball shooting him at lasers in the Falcon. He had a couple conversations with Obi-Wan, and he ran through the forest and did flips and made some rocks float with Yoda. And then he went off to fight Darth Vader. With that amount of training, he should have gotten diced in half. He definitely shouldn't have gotten away. Like, let's be real. I'm just speaking reality here. I know people want to shit all over Rey, and Luke is, again, he's the greatest of all time. There's nobody could debate that. He did not get enough training to survive. Not even he actually had an upper hand on Vader at one point. Didn't Luke go back and finish his training? Well, we didn't see it. That's why we need a Luke. So the Obi-Wan series, sorry, tangent, it happens. Obi-Wan series was my very first desire when they announced all these shows. A Luke one between episode 5 and 6 is my second. Luke still got away. Vader, he couldn't apprehend Luke Skywalker in that moment. That doesn't, he didn't want to kill him. He obviously sliced his arm off. He couldn't apprehend Luke Skywalker. Luke had enough training to get away from, just stop that. Now, obviously, Luke wasn't mind controlling people like Rey was. They took Rey to another level. She was pretty OP. Vader wanted to turn him, not kill him. He couldn't catch him, couldn't apprehend him. It's pretty weak, in my opinion. Again, it's just opinion. It's where my mind goes story-wise. You would think someone as highly trained and as powerful as Darth Vader would be able to apprehend Luke Skywalker. That was the plan. Luke needed to choose? No, that wasn't the plan. You apprehend Luke Skywalker. But again, it's just an example. We can't act like Luke went through some crazy, hardcore training. And he actually technically failed with Yoda. He failed in the cave, and he failed with the his ship, his X-Wing. Luke wanted to turn his father. He didn't know he was his father at the time. He found out afterwards. It should have never... The stuff with Luke and Vader should have never gotten to the point where the position to fall. Vader should have been able to snatch him up way before that. He should have been able to snatch him up way before that. That fight lasted a long time. That's why they wanted to get him in carbonite. The plan was to capture him, and Luke was able to get away. Enough with the negative. That was my little soapbox rant that I wanted to get off my chest and out of the way. I just want people to be positive. I want people to see the potential and the good in things. How great was it to see Luke? Seriously. How great was it to see Luke? It was legitimately one of my favorite moments. You guys saw the reaction. If you didn't, go over to the YouTube channel, Nikki Steven React, to go check it out. The moment I saw that X-Wing, my brain took a minute. Like, I love watching my reaction to it because it did take a minute. Be like, wait, what? X-Wing. Because we had seen X-Wings already in The Mandalorian, but then it was like one X-Wing. It was just like, oh my God, it's Luke Skywalker. Seeing, and I know Luke has stories that aren't canon anymore. I know there was some story of Luke Skywalker, and I don't know if this stuff's canon or not, but I heard that there's been stories of him like out in space taking down Star Destroyers. I don't know if that's true or not. I've seen and heard stuff about that. I don't know if that stuff's canon or not, but this was peak Luke for all of us who focus mostly on the movies. This was peak Luke. This was all the way Jedi Master. I'm total badass like my father before me. Just walking through the hallways, tearing apart those Death Troopers. Seeing Luke again like that was just so spectacular. So spectacular. And I don't care what anyone says about the CGI. I don't give a fuck. I thought it was great. Sebastian Stan it almost looked more like Sebastian Stan than Mark Hamill. I don't know if he's ever going to be available because he's busy with Marvel stuff. But if you're going to plan any kind of like long-term focus Luke Skywalker TV show series or movie series, like that CGI is not going to work as a focal point. It works in small doses, and even in small doses, people complain about it. You're going to need a live actor as himself if we're going to do anything extensive with Luke Skywalker. And for me, the biggest no-brainer thing for me personally is getting a standalone series, just like we're getting with Obi-Wan, with Luke, that takes place between episodes 5 and 6. I want to visibly see him. And I know there's like a deleted scene, you can find it on YouTube, of Luke building his saber that they pulled out of Return of the Jedi, which I'm actually really happy they pulled out of that movie because it would have kind of taken the surprise away and his reveal of his new saber. But give me him building his saber, whatever missions he had to go on to gather the pieces and the parts of that to put it together. And show me his training, how he became so powerful. Because when he walked into Jabba's palace, he was just fucking done. I want to see him go from defeated Luke in Empire Strikes Back to OP Luke in Return of the Jedi. That's what I want to see. And we got a little bit of that because Mandalorian gave us, just like Rogue One did with Vader, the Mandalorian gave us something that we've all been craving as Luke fans. And just watching him just like, it was so easy. And then when he just like crushes the one, Luke's obviously got some dark shit in him to be able to pull that shit off. I feel like Luke has always kind of teetered that line, just like his father before him. But seeing Luke, watching him just tear through people with that green saber, I legitimately, and I'm not embarrassed to be emotional about this stuff. I was far more like emotional while editing that reaction than watching it because I think I was in a little bit of shock. I had talked, like the moment Grogu went and had that like force field moment, Luke was an obvious choice there. And again, it works perfectly within the story. It's not some out of left field, oh, let's just throw Luke Skywalker in and make everyone happy. It fit perfectly within the story because Luke is on that mission right now. He's in the process of recruiting. His academy is a few years down the road, and he's looking for Force users that survived Order 66 and are still alive. So the fact that one of them would reach out, it would make sense for them to connect with Luke. It fit so perfectly within the story. It was just epic. It was amazing. It's everything that we've been wanting. But yeah, my eyes got really watery while editing that reaction because part of it is like watching me and Nikki, and then the fact of getting those, like, I don't think I even heard the music playing when I was watching it live for the first time. I don't even think it hit me that the music was playing because I was literally like all I saw was Luke. I didn't hear anything else happening. I didn't even realize his music was playing in that moment. And that music is my all-time favorite score. Anytime I hear it, I get chills and it like chokes me up a little bit because it takes me back to my childhood. I felt like a little kid again. It makes me feel like a kid again. And I think that's what a lot of people feel who get really emotional about it. You're able to tap in. I probably would have geeked out hardcore at first if it didn't make sense storyline and then complained about it later. Just seeing him regardless. But it makes total sense story-wise. And I love every second of it. All right, let's chug along. My all-time favorite, moving on from Luke. Well, this is Luke related actually. But moving on from Luke for a minute and talk about Grogu and Din. Probably my top... this would be a fun thing to go through as my favorite moments in Star Wars history. No question at all. I think in my top 5 would be the moment where Vader / Anakin takes his helmet off for the first time to look at Luke. The moment where Luke has saved Vader after Vader saved Luke and the redemption is complete. The moment where Anakin tells, like, take this thing off, I want to look on you with my own eyes. That's one of my favorite moments in all of Star Wars. They both knew, like, well, Luke had to understand that Vader wasn't going to survive that moment. Anakin was going to die there. So they take off the helmet, and they have their moment. Go tell your sister. You were right. You were right. That's easily one of my favorite moments in the history of Star Wars. The most vile, just crazy, intense, hardcore villain that I've ever encountered has been redeemed. That's another really fun thing to talk about, how people are like, you could never redeem Vader because he killed younglings. People need to realize Vader was redeemed way before that movie came out. So it's hard to kind of shift your mindset on that. But that moment will go down forever as one of my favorite moments. And then when that started, when it was time for Grogu to say goodbye to Din, and Grogu reaches for Din's helmet, and he lifts his helmet, that was the first thing I thought about. Grogu wanted to see his papa without his helmet on. Din wanted to be able to look upon Grogu with his own eyes. The parallels are insane. It is such a powerful moment, and just the storytelling, the subtle hints that these creators insert from the old content, the new content, the way they slide this stuff into the story. I don't know if that was, I would have to assume that was their intent. I know they're big fans of the show, like of the movies. Like I know they're Star Wars fans. I have no idea. Like I would love to ask that question. Maybe that could be the first non-solo podcast. Hey, Jon Favreau. Yeah, right. But that had to have been done on purpose. The parallels are too perfect. It fits. Like, Din's had his helmet off the whole time. We don't know if he's ever taken it off in front of Grogu. The assumption is no. We know he takes his helmet off. He just doesn't take his helmet off in front of anybody. Or the camera. But that moment and that relationship is everything. That relationship turned into a true father-son bond. This Mandalorian bounty hunter just took a job to go find this 50-year-old being. 16 episodes later, it is the coolest and some of the most emotional relationships that we've ever had. That relationship makes this show. And obviously it brings people like Nikki, who's more of a casual fan of all this, into a crying mess while watching. Because of the real life just emotions from that moment of potentially saying goodbye to your baby forever. Din looks at Grogu as his baby. That's his baby. That's his son. And I've seen questions like, "Oh, it doesn't make sense. Why would you just let your kid go to a stranger?" Luke didn't take anybody. Grogu clearly had a connection with Luke. Luke clearly stated he wants your permission to come with me. Grogu didn't want to go without Papa's permission. It wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to walk in and take this thing and bounce." This dude showed up, wrecked an entire squadron of Dark Troopers. Death Troopers, Dark Troopers, Death Troopers, Dark Troopers. Slaughtered all of them, politely walks in the room, and he doesn't really introduce himself. That would have been kind of dope. If he was like, "I'm Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight." But Din asks, "Are you a Jedi?" It's like, "Yeah, motherfucker. I'm the GOAT. I'm the Jedi." And then Grogu's reluctant. Grogu doesn't immediately, like, you saw the connection. Like, while they were watching on the monitor, Grogu's like, "Holy shit, Daddy, look. You see this dude? That's a Jedi right there." You already knew there was a connection. And then the fact that Luke's like, he needs your permission. Luke didn't just take Grogu. It was a consensual parting. Because, again, the point of the story is for Din to reunite Grogu with his people, the Jedi. Din wasn't blindly giving his kid away to somebody. He knew what was going on. And I think that's the perfect segue into where does the Mandalorian go? Because there was a ton of speculation that was the end. Grogu and Din are broken up. They're separated. Where does this go? Oh, let's just do a Boba Fett. Let's make Boba Fett season 3. Thankfully, we got official confirmation this morning. Like I had predicted and like I had been telling people. We'll talk about Boba Fett in a minute. But what people don't realize, they left us with a massive cliffhanger at the end of season 2. And I'm not talking about Luke and Grogu. We have a massive cliffhanger and a huge story to tell with Bo-Katan and the Darksaber. That story is a little fishy. It was a little confusing at first because I have watched Rebels and I needed a quick refresher on this. But in Rebels, Sabine does just hand Bo-Katan the saber without any questions, and she takes it willingly. They're going to have to explain that at some point with the whole dark saber thing. But I think it's really clear where Mandalorian Season 3 goes. We're going to go rebuild Mandalore. I think that's one of my biggest things with Star Wars today is the idea of expansion. New characters, new worlds, opening things up. Obviously, Mandalore is not new, but Mandalore is new to the live action crew. Those who haven't watched the animated, and there's a lot of people who haven't watched the animated series. I think going to Mandalore with Din as the Mandalore would be a spectacular story. Right before chapter 16, I would have told you there's no chance Din would be interested in that. There's no way he wants to do that. But now, his mission is complete. Grogu is with Luke Skywalker, off to go learn Jedi things. Maybe now his new mission, he did agree to Bo-Katan that he would go back. Maybe his new mission, and I don't know if Bo-Katan will be okay with this. I mean, she's done it before. But maybe Bo-Katan will view Din as Mandalore and the ruler and the top dog in charge to rebuild Mandalore. I think that would be a fantastic story. And of course, the story would not ignore Grogu. Star Wars is a story told from many, many parts of the galaxy. They could use their really cheesy wipes, which are historic. And we could check on Grogu. That'll absolutely happen. If this is the direction in my eyes, that's what I would do. Din's on his mission doing his thing. Grogu's on his mission doing his thing. Not being killed by Ben Solo because there's plenty of time to survive that, by the way. Timelines get tricky with me in the moment. It takes me a minute to think about them. But we could absolutely, they won't be together, obviously. But watching Grogu train with Luke, sign me up all fucking day. Grogu and Luke together on the hunt for more Jedi. Yeah, I'm down. I love that idea. I don't know if that's where we're going, but the focus. This is called The Mandalorian. It would be perfect storytelling for the show called The Mandalorian to go rebuild Mandalore. Bring all the Mandalorians out from hiding. Bring them all back together. Rebuild this planet that the Empire completely destroyed. I think that would be a fantastic storyline. Put Grogu, just dabble him in here and there. We don't have to see him all the time. We don't have to have whole episodes dedicated to him. But he's the $1 billion baby. Grogu ain't going nowhere. He's not turning bad. He's not dying. At least not right now. I think there's potential, the idea, even with the timeline that we're on, even the idea of saying Grogu, Ben's not gonna, there's still potential for that to play out. We don't know the extent of Luke's new Jedi Academy. We don't know if Luke's attempt was to rebuild the entire order. If you're gonna have a Jedi Order, you're gonna need a Jedi Council. And it appears that Grogu is going to be the first Padawan of Luke Skywalker. How do we know Grogu doesn't check in with Din and visits him on the regular, but he's a career Jedi now, running Luke's academy? He's on his council. How do we know? I don't think that's the possibility. I don't think that's a realistic option. I'm not going to throw it out the window, though. He had graduating classes, from what I've heard. People survived, apparently. I don't get the vibe that Luke is starting something small. I think his plan was to rebuild all of it. I mean, Luke doesn't really know. He never experienced the Jedi Council, but we know the dude talks to Yoda and Obi-Wan on the regular, so it's not that hard. But I think it's for me, if there's not a big time jump, which is possible, I think the idea of Din, Bo-Katan and company going back to Mandalore, somehow getting out the message to all the exiled Mandalorians who are hiding, bringing them back to Mandalore to rebuild. I think that's a fantastic story. That is a way of expanding the universe for live action. You could insert some new characters that live action has never encountered. Get Sabine in there, that'd be fantastic. But yeah, I think the potential for season 3 with Din wielding that darksaber, or they have like a little just private one-on-one Rocky versus Apollo fight. Promise to not kill each other or cut off any limbs. They fight and Din loses. And Bo-Katan's the ruler. And Din's there to help. But just because it's not Din and Grogu together, I 100% think that season 3 is going to still thrive. And I think it could be great if they do a full story on Mandalore and powering it back up. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a really, really good story. And of course we can't ignore Grogu. We'll check in with him on time to time to see how his Jedi training is going. He's already had some training. He was saved from the temple. So he's already got some. He just gotta bring it back. He's just gotta tap into what he's already learned. Hear Grogu talking in like a teenage Yoda voice. That would be amazing. Go train, I will not. I'm gonna go hang out with my friends, I will. Grogu, you little shit, get inside and go work out. Quit fighting with me, you're grounded. I think that would be hilarious. I think that would be hilarious. In the best way possible, of course. And then, of course, we can't wrap up season 2 of The Mandalorian without talking about the book of Boba Fett. I understand why they didn't announce it right away. I wish they would have announced it and revealed it. But this morning on Good Morning America, I think it was Good Morning America, Favreau officially confirmed Boba Fett is going to be its own thing. There was confirmation already floating around on the internet. Someone associated, like not like a representative of Lucasfilm, but someone who works for Lucasfilm had already said like Boba Fett's not season 3. Like, this was always kind of my issue with inserting Boba Fett into this story, was there's a lot of really hardcore Boba Fett fans out there. I love Boba Fett, but he doesn't move the needle for me personally. I think he's dope. He's really cool. We saw him do more badass shit in The Mandalorian than we ever did in any of the movies. From what I gathered, Boba Fett's show is already in production. Mandalorian season 3 is in pre-production. So the Book of Boba Fett will come out first, which I'm happy with. Get the Boba Fett, like if it's like a single standalone short series, get that put out. Get the Boba Fett story done so we can move on with Din. I love Boba Fett. I think he's really cool. I do think there's a difference between liking someone and thinking like you can still like someone who's overrated. I just think he was overrated. That's not I think he sucks statement. You can think someone's overrated and still like him. I just never fully, outside of like him looking dope, I never understood why people thought he was like the greatest thing ever. And obviously the mystery behind him, his ability to track Han, capture Han, no disintegration line is one of the coolest things ever. He's just a bounty hunter. He was just a side character on a bigger story. I was always content with his death. Like, even though it was like kind of a weak way to go out, I was always content that he didn't make it out of the Sarlacc pit. But again, like I've said, now that he's out and he's kicking ass, I'm all for it. I want to see where it goes. I'm interested, I'm intrigued. And that end credit scene was pretty dope. I was wrong about Boba's fate in the show. I thought for sure he was going to get like a heroic, massive send-off death. And then the spin-off was going to come. But instead, he bounced, came back, and then went on to Tatooine to go take over Jabba's palace, which that's kind of dope. Showing up there like Luke, just killing folks, people falling down the stairs. That's such just an epic scene. Taking over the throne of Jabba the Hutt. I'm curious to know what the world looks like on Tatooine in that moment. I couldn't imagine there's that much going on. But if we're getting like an underworld crime style show, that sounds cool as hell. I'll watch that. Hell yeah. That was always kind of the rumors about the Boba Fett spin-off show when all this started. Was that it wasn't necessarily going to be like 100% focused on Boba Fett, but it was going to be more like an underworld crime type of thing, which that would be super cool. I think that'd be really interesting. Life of a bounty hunter. And of course, I would imagine we'll get flashbacks to how he survived and exactly what went down. It's also a way for Cobb to show up, yeah, because he is on Tatooine as well. We all love the Marshal. I just always assumed the Boba Fett show would be a prequel type thing taking place, him climbing out, like that'd be the story. But I would imagine it's going to be a current time filled with flashbacks about how he survived and what he was doing. They kind of explained how he potentially could have saved the Sarlacc pit or survived from the Sarlacc pit in the episode. But yeah, I fully think we're going to get... I think it's one of those things that we have to visually see. How did Boba live? How did he survive? How did he get out of the pit? Because he doesn't have the most advanced of Mandalorian armor. He doesn't have like an outfit like Din's got, where he's Beskar head to toe. Boba's armor was a lot weaker looking. Outside of the helmet is one thing, but like the rest of his suit looked pretty beat up. So it'd be interesting to see. And whether it's a 1 season thing, a 2 episode, 3 episode, 6 episode, 8 episode, whatever they decide to do, I'm excited to see it. And hopefully we could get closure on Boba Fett. We could wrap up his story and move on. And he gets what he officially deserves and what Boba Fett fans have been wanting for. Just like we got with Luke in this show. I feel like fans are going to be able to get what they've wanted out of Boba Fett from his spinoff. I think it's going to be really good. Always seeing those suns on Tatooine always strike a little bit of emotion. I think they're spectacular. That's kind of what I had for The Mandalorian. Again, I feel like it was one of my favorite seasons of TV that I've ever seen, ever. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the story was great. I thought everything fit. Everything made sense story-wise. Seeing Luke brought back some incredible feelings. Watching Din say goodbye to Grogu was heartbreaking. But it brought some really good emotions because of the callback to Luke and Anakin, which is just one of those moments that is just so spectacular. One of my favorite things ever, Star Wars. And yeah, I can't wait to see where all this content's going. I can't wait to see where The Mandalorian goes, where Boba Fett goes. It's a great show. Season 1 was awesome. But Season 2 took things to an entirely new level. And just the introduction to the characters of live action, just the way this story just crushes every emotion. I feel like, and I'm sure I could go through and see what other people who have said things who didn't like it, could see where there might be some holes or something, which I like to do. I still like to go see other people's opinions, because opinions are great. If you can express why you like or don't like something, opinions are fantastic. They literally make the world go round. It would be the most boring place in the entire world if everyone felt the same way about stuff. And liking something doesn't make it good. People need to understand that. If you like it, doesn't mean it makes sense. which is why I go so hard with my research on stuff, because if I'm going to tell you what they did to Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi makes no sense, I'm going to have to be able to back that up with something legit, not just, I didn't like it. And I feel like my argument is good enough to talk to George Lucas about if he felt otherwise. I mean, I know Mark Hamill's on my side with that, so that goes a long way. But that doesn't completely validate the reasons why. My reasons why are all story related. And it's not just because I'm a hardcore Luke Skywalker fanboy. Luke's character arc between 6 and 8 needs explaining. It does. Instead of like, here's a really interesting and simple, like, again, my brain goes to storytelling. Why did Anakin's turn in the prequels have such a large impact? Because we visibly see him killing younglings. It's on screen, or it's on like a monitor of Obi-Wan watching, but we visibly see him killing children. One of the kids comes out and says, "Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?" We know Luke strikes that kid down. And apparently, rumor has it, we're going to get to see it from Anakin's point of view in the Obi-Wan series, which, holy shit, yes, please. But that moment has so much impact and emotion because we physically see him killing younglings, striking them down. Anakin, did I say Luke? Anakin. All we see is the destruction of Luke's academy. That is not enough to convince me that that would make him disappear. All you had to do was show Ben Solo chopping down some of Luke's students and watching Luke just go insane. You can't say it. You can't have Han Solo say, like, oh, he lost his students in his academy. If you're going to have Luke Skywalker give up, the only way for it to make sense is by showing what happened, not just the aftermath. The aftermath's not impactful enough. We don't have any connection with anybody that was there. We had no idea who was there. But because we never see it, it doesn't make sense for him to disappear. If we see him killed. Well, that was my initial thought. Before I realized exactly what our timeline was. Luke saying, I'll protect this child with my life. And that was my first thought, is like, okay, well, if Ben Solo kills Grogu, that could be something. But I don't think the timeline, it's going to take a lot to keep Grogu there 20 years for Ben to be old enough to destroy the temple. But I will always harp on the story and if it makes sense. The other thing that makes no sense, and I'll talk about this more, I think I might dedicate a whole podcast to this. I don't know if I want to do that just because it's a really negative kind of conversation for me. But it doesn't make sense that Luke would go search out the first ever Jedi temple to give up. No one's ever gone to a Jedi temple to disconnect from the Force. They go there to connect to the Force. They go there to seek answers and fix things. Luke is a Jedi. I mean, the Jedi. I didn't think anything could break him except bad writing. Basically. You could like The Last Jedi all you want. I'm not going to ever hate on anyone for liking something. But you have to be able to understand that there are massive story gaps in this. Like, I love certain things. I mentioned it in the last podcast. Return of the Jedi is my favorite movie of all time. I still acknowledge the issues that exist. I don't necessarily think it's the best one. Everything with the Ewoks just makes no sense. It just doesn't make sense. You have to be able, as a fan, you still got to be able to look objectively at the story that's being told. I've been a storyteller for much of my life, visual storyteller, because I was a broadcast journalism major in college. I took film classes in high school. So story and how things, I don't know if I could write a good story, but I feel like I could analyze a story well. And I harp on the idea that things need to flow and make sense. You can't insert certain things into a prequel that we never hear again in 6 movies. You can't insert something in the last movie of a 9-movie saga that we never experienced before. Especially when there's track record and history to support that couldn't happen. Without legit explanation and storytelling to back it up, it doesn't work. Like a lot of casual viewers of this product might not see that. I probably take Star Wars too seriously. But the thing is, all these stories are connected. And the middle movie of a trilogy can't fundamentally change every single major character trait of a character that we've had for 40 years without some really, really heavy storytelling to support it. And they didn't do it. There is no support to back up Luke Skywalker's decisions in The Last Jedi. There just aren't. And it's unfortunate. Visually, that movie is amazing. It looks incredible. But the story's more of a mess than the prequels are. I almost wanted to laugh out loud when when I see this line spoken from Luke, I've seen that raw power before, and he's referencing Ben Solo? What? What are you talking about? You were force lightning by the Emperor. Ben Solo's not that powerful. At least they didn't show us for him to be that big and powerful. I've seen that raw power before. It was from my nephew. What? What are you talking about, Luke? You fought Darth Vader twice. They should have shown Ben Solo flying through space like force lightning ships if we wanted to talk about how raw his power was. It just didn't, where's the support in the storytelling to show the audience that Ben Solo would scare Luke Skywalker more than Palpatine, who was literally standing there force lightning him, teasing him, joking him, fucking just straight punking his ass and about to kill him. Oh, he throws his saber down. The one acceptable time for Luke to throw his saber down. You're wrong, you lose. I am a Jedi like my father. So be it, Jedi. Boom, dead. If they would have shown us something from Ben Solo, I loved Kylo Ren's arc in the sequel trilogy. I think it was the best part about it. But they never once showed us a confident, strong, powerful Force user. We never saw him, outside of destroying things because he was angry, or force freezing Rey. I mean, stopping the bullet or the blaster was pretty dope, and being able to hold it there. We've never seen anyone do that before. That was kind of cool. That's not enough power to make me think Luke would be scared of him. I think Palpatine had more raw power than Ben Solo, I'm just going to say. That's the kind of thing that I don't think makes sense. Show me an example of how truly powerful Ben Solo was. They never did it. They never gave me a reason to not laugh at that line in the movie. And him being the son of Leia is not enough. And it would take so much for Luke Skywalker to be pushed to the point of murdering his own nephew. You have to support that and back it up. That's what I'm talking about with storylines making sense. That action, sure, it's fine. All you had to do was show us some crazy extreme thing, like, oh damn, Luke's gonna kill this dude. We know Luke's capable of some dark shit. You can't blame Rian Johnson though. You have to blame the person in charge who gave the directors freedom. Rian Johnson just made the best thing that he thought he could. He might be a little bit of a Star Wars troll with the way he talks online. I don't know if he's actually like a true Star Wars fan, but he took a risk. I respect him for that. But Kathleen Kennedy gave him the freedom to do whatever he wanted. He's just a content creator making content that he thought was right. I'm not going to knock a guy. Like, I fundamentally disagree with his thoughts on Star Wars completely. And I would love to talk to him about it. I think that would be fun. But I'm not going to knock a guy for completely going with his vision on what he thought something should be. I'm not going to throw Rian Johnson under that bus. I'm just not going to do it. I couldn't imagine being in his, like, this dude is in a really, really prime position and had the world in his hands with this episode of Star Wars that he was able to produce and create. That is a lot of pressure. That's scary. My first question to Rian Johnson literally would be, what support do you have to make Luke do what... Like, it's fine that you present the people change, and as you get older, things change, and your mindset changes, and this and that. It is true. People do change. But it's usually a life moment that makes you change. I would legitimately ask him, I don't know if he's answering this question because I try not to watch any of his comments about Star Wars because it'd probably just fire me up. But I would legitimately ask him, what track record do we have to support the idea that Luke would not only go to a Jedi temple to retire and quit and disconnect, but like, what support do we have that explains that? And I would love to hear his explanation for that. I would love it. Rian Johnson, hit me up. Let's have a grown-up conversation about Star Wars. I would probably poop my pants if I got a chance to interview Rian. I've interviewed a lot of really, really cool people in my time. I think I'd poop if I got a chance to interview Rian Johnson about The Last Jedi. I think that'd be a lot of fun. That's a good question. I'm still confused why Ben turned. Because he idolized his grandfather, who he thought was Darth Vader. Well, he knew he was Darth Vader, but I don't know if Ben ever knew the story that he actually turned and was redeemed at the end. Han showing up in The Rise of Skywalker works. It works really well for me. Ben having a vision, seeing his father there, basically reciting what he said to him in The Force Awakens. But I still think it would have been... Forget Anakin showing up to see Rey. Anakin should have showed up to see Ben. He should have been like, hey kid, it's not what it's all cracked up to be. That Emperor dude's bad. What you're doing is bad. You're idolizing the wrong thing. I turned good at the end because I was wrong. Hayden Christensen should have shown up as a Force ghost to tell Ben Solo that. That's where Anakin should have showed up. Anakin 1,000,000% should have shown up at some point to tell, hey Ben, I'm a good dude now. I was wrong. I made mistakes. The dark is not the way to go. Han showing up works very well for me too. It's a father-son bond. I get it. Ben was never officially dark side. He was fighting himself back and forth like crazy. And the fact that they showed Anakin, they remastered it, Anakin as Hayden Christensen at the end of Return of the Jedi, Anakin could have absolutely shown up and talked to Ben. Those are one of those little story holes that I wouldn't really call it a hole because I don't know if Hayden Christensen was available. I don't know if, like, you don't know all the behind the scenes with that. So it's hard to say, like, that's a plot hole. But I probably would have lost my shit if at some point Anakin spoke to Kylo Ren. That would have been such a powerful moment. And it would have, instead of him, like, fighting back and forth with stuff and feeling the death of his mother and having the conversation with Han, like, that all, like, that, like, his redemption worked for me very well. I feel like from start to finish, Kylo Ren's story arc is the only one that makes sense through all three movies. I feel like his stuff worked. I would have loved to see him live at the end so that he could have carried on the Skywalker name and not Rey. Because I'm really, really, really strong opinion that Rey should have kept the Palpatine name. But I feel like his storyline worked the best in the sequel trilogy and was a really, really good story. I love Kylo Ren. I think he was fantastic. And I think it would have taken it up to a whole next level if Anakin appeared to him at some point and just said, "Hey kid, I was wrong. Stop worshiping me." I don't think Rey needed to die. Rey could still be the future. That's fine. I still think Rey should have been a Kenobi. Yeah, I mean, Kenobi or Palpatine were my two kind of guesses at when this all started, when her identity was revealed to be something important. I love the potential of the Palpatine story. I loved that idea. Do I think they fully capitalized on it? No. JJ didn't really have enough time to hash out that story because I really don't believe that was their original plan for episode 9. Palp was never supposed to come back, but they had no more bad guys left. So they had to find a mastermind pulling the strings from behind or from behind the curtain. Another comment, I think Finn should have got his force powers earlier and not in a Lego holiday special. Finn, I feel like that's one of the biggest missed opportunities in Star Wars. Add to the list of not having our reunion with Luke, Leia, and Han. I've talked about this too. Finn was the Force Awakens. It wasn't Rey. It was Finn. JJ set up a fantastic foundation for Finn. And then the story took him to Canto Bight. And everything that was laid out for the potential of Finn, he turned into a joke in that movie. He should have never... The way Kylo Ren slashed his back at the end of The Force Awakens, he should not have been able to recover that quickly. That should have been a long recovery. He should have never gone to Canto Bight. And his story should have continued along the line of him becoming a Force user. It was there. And I will 100, like, again, the story supports the idea that The Force Awakens was not about Rey. It was about Finn. Snoke and Kylo Ren had their conversation about there's a disturbance in the Force before they ever met Rey. And it happened right after Finn had his awakening about, like, shit, I'm not going to kill all these people. I'm not going to fire on them. And the fact that Kylo Ren would, like, just stare at him and know FN 2187. He knew exactly who he was. It's not just because he was a rogue stormtrooper. It's because the Force woke up in this dude. He only lasted a few minutes, but dude went toe-to-toe with Kylo Ren with a lightsaber in his hand for a minute. Way longer than he should have. We know that he wasn't a combat specialist with the First Order. See what happens? You get me on a tangent? All you gotta do is drop a simple line in the chat. Get me going. Finn is one of those characters that they missed the boat on hardcore. Hardcore. The moment that Kylo Ren screamed traitor at Finn, that was one of those goosebump moments where, again, I feel like it was more than just him flipping on being a stormtrooper. I think that's deeper. I think that's more than just him not being a stormtrooper anymore. And obviously we'll never know. That's just pure speculation. Because that story never got hashed out. That's just my Star Wars theory in me. But Finn was... the potential for that character and where that arc could have gone, the potential was massive. It was just a lost opportunity. There's absolutely no reason that Rey and Finn could have both been superstars. I think that's going to do it. Let's end on that. I think we have a new segment for the podcast that we're going to end with. I think from now on, I think just discuss a random topic that's not completely linked to the main show idea. Because this podcast is all about The Mandalorian and how amazing and fantastic it was. But last episode went on a Broom Boy rant. Today went on a Finn rant. I think that could be a fun new segment. I don't necessarily love the word rant because people just all automatically interpret it as a negative. Like, I just ranted about Finn, and it was about my love for the character and the potential that he could have. All right, here's some questions. Where does Gideon rank on your list of Star Wars villains? I mean, anytime you insert Gustavo Fring, he's going to be up there. I need more. I need more on him to officially put him in the likes of a Tarkin or a Vader or a Palpatine or any of that stuff. We need more with him. Excited about the Obi-Wan show. That's the number one show that I was looking for when they announced all these spin-offs, or when they announced even doing the Star Wars stories. Kathleen Kennedy gives me a Star Wars trilogy of your own. You write all 3 movies, pick an era. You get a blank check for budget. What's your first idea? Old Republic. I think that's easy. Go 1,000 years away from what we're dealing with now. Would The Mandalorian be better off without Luke or any other OT character? Seems like there's much larger galaxy to be... The Mandalorian, I would say no, because of the timeline that they're in. It makes sense for these characters to show up, and the way Favreau and Filoni have done it works and makes sense for me. But I 100% want them to explore, introduce new characters, maybe bring some Legends characters to life, introduce new planets, do all kinds of stuff. Like, I want them to expand, but I think it makes perfect sense within the context of The Mandalorian that these OG characters are coming back. Do you believe Grogu will become evil in season 4 or 5 of The Mandalorian and become Din's #1 enemy? I don't think they're going to... I'm at the point now where I don't think they're going to do anything negative with Grogu. I don't think a heel turn is a good idea yet. By season 4 or 5, maybe? If we get that far with this show, which I hope we do. But it's hard to turn your $1 billion baby into a bad guy. That's tough. Maybe Bo didn't accept the saber because she sees something great in Din. Yeah. She did invite him to join the cause, so who knows? It's very possible. They should add other Jedi to the shows, not just those damn Skywalkers. Ezra's 100% gonna be in the Ahsoka show. We got Ahsoka in this show, so we got another Jedi, even though she's not technically a Jedi, even though they didn't shy away from her being a Jedi. Which, again, is one of those interesting story points, because she directly, when she fights Vader in Rebels, she clearly says, I am no Jedi. And then when she was approached in Mandalorian as a Jedi, she didn't say no. So, I don't know. Did R2-D2 save Grogu during the Clone Wars since they both knew each other very well? That's very possible. My initial reaction was like, oh, R2 thinks that's Yoda, that's why he's acting like that. But then it became clear the way they were talking. I would have loved some translation about what they were saying to each other. But it's clear that they have a history and they actually knew each other. That's why they were excited. Grogu, that was when R2 came out, Grogu actually walked towards him, and it was just like, oh, Grogu knows him. Okay. So yeah, it's very possible. R2's a G like that. Ahsoka will be chasing after Thrawn, for sure. Ezra is honored. Yeah, I think the Ahsoka show is 1,000,000% going to be like a sequel to Rebels. Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt that that's going to happen. Will we react to Bad Batch with Nikki? I don't know. It all depends on the schedule. It all depends on how things kind of lay out. And like, I don't want the reaction channel to turn into a Star Wars reaction channel as much as I would love for that. I think it'll definitely be something that we hit on. Depending on the schedule, again, it depends on what returning shows are there. It depends on really just how things lay out and what we're even doing by the time these shows come out. So, but I'm not going to say no. I can tell you what shows we won't react to based off of the new ones. I mean, the shows that I have no interest in. Let me pull up the list. I can tell you that I have no interest in Visions. Probably watch Lando. I have no interest in A Droid Story. Rogue Squadron's going to be a movie. But Mandalorian, Ahsoka, I don't know. Like Andor, I don't know how interested I am. Like, I love Cassian Andor as a character. I don't know how invested the audience will be for that, for a character that we know kind of dies. we don't have like a future with him. We just have a past. I don't know. Obi-Wan is my number one right now. Obviously, Boba Fett is up there too. I don't know if like Lando might be like a side watch where we talk about here maybe. But yeah, I mean, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Boba Fett are probably the four top of the list for sure. All the other ones are kind of more topical discussion type things, I think. But we'll see. Never know. But I am going to wrap it up now. Episode 2 of Flying Solo with me, Steve-O. Solo, because I'm alone, is a wrap. Really appreciate all y'all for watching and listening and hanging. All those that are live on Twitch, appreciate y'all. If you're listening on any other of these podcasts, please like and rate and comment and give us some love. Give it some love. Really appreciate y'all. And of course, over on YouTube, on the Flying Solo YouTube channel. Really appreciate everyone. All this extra stuff that I'm exploring. This passion project that I'm working on. I will plan for the next podcast to be same time, same place, Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will see. This is a work in progress. Hopefully I can make it more structured. Hopefully I can make it more visually cool looking for those that are live. It's only episode 2. Hopefully we'll have a lot of these. Hopefully this thing will grow. And yeah, I really appreciate everyone. Really appreciate all the support. Love all y'all very much. We'll see you guys next week. May the Force be with you. Peace.